Okay, let's go. On Saturday, I played a game against someone who was quite strong. I believe they had a rating of like 2000 or so. I prepped a French against some because we assumed that I would be playing against one of two people, and for one of them, I looked at a database and I found, I believe, it was like 30 or so white games and 4 black games. So I decided that no, they would not be playing black against me. They did. The other player played would against e4 would play French. This player plays e5, and I looked at some of their games, but I didn't remember much. Uh, I basically prepped a French, and then I got into this line. I'm gonna try to do this off the top of my head, even though it's been 2 days since. Because I think I can probably do that. My opponent played quite a weird line here. My opponent played no, knight f6 here, and then bishop e7. And I played knight c3 here. I did not realize the main difference, which, well, it's mostly that the bishop is going to be terrible, this one, but I also can't really kick it. So the main difference is, after we castled and I played rook e1 and forgot to fix this, was that my opponent now has knight a5, because I have never played a4 or b4 because there's no bishop here. So I lose my bishop for the knight, which I completely forgot. I think this is already kind of annoying for me, but it's still fine. Most of the game I was completely fine. So what I considered was to play like something like bishop e3 here, or actually h3 probably. And the point is that if they take, I just take back with the pawn and then permanently hold d5. Or I just move back, in which case I can always take and put some pressure here. I believe what's happened now, I might be doing the move order a bit wrong. I believe this is definitely a position after h3, because I wanted to prevent bishop g4. And bishop e6 currently isn't possible, so this bishop can't really develop. My bishop has some room. Oh, also I wanted to prevent knight g4, which is a possibility. And after bishop e3, knight g4 is also quite annoying. So my opponent started to, I guess, make this bishop useful by playing rook e8 first, and then started doing, well, basically this. In the meantime, I needed to also figure out something to do. I decided to make sure that I didn't have a doubled pawn here eventually, and put my knight somewhere good. Didn't really work, but I did put my knight here. Apologies. And well, we started some maneuvering. I played knight g3 here, which gets prevented by g6, which is something my opponent always wanted to do regardless. But now from here I can also go to e3, which seems like a good place for this knight. Also, I kind of wanted g6, so I can now pin the knight and maybe do something with that. Bishop g7 just to defend so the queen can move again. I don't think this was a great plan. But did I do it here? No, I don't think. Sorry, I didn't play bishop g5 here. I will eventually do that. First I played c3 and my bishop gets taken here finally. And I believe it's yeah, it's here that I do play bishop g5. And the point is that if it gets kicked, that's fine because my queen pins this, so this pawn becomes an issue, so I can maybe play knight h4 and then plant a knight on f5 was the point. That's if they kick it, and if they don't kick it, then my bishop is just here, being annoying. Also, it gets out of the way of this rook, so my rook can go to the center, which will happen. My opponent unpins, and I play rook d1, and oh yeah, I remember what happened here. Okay, I had to think for a second. My opponent sets up a different side of attack basically. My opponent plays a5 here. And I underestimated this a bit. I mean, a4 is a thing. But they're genuinely just going to attack my a2 pawn. Which is weird, kind of. I decided to ignore it. I could have played a4, but yeah. I played d4. With the point that after bishop e6 I can push d5. Yeah, and that should be fine for me. I'm trying to kind of lock the position because I have 2 knights versus 2 bishops. So yeah. And if they don't, sorry. And if they take, I'm probably fine. I'm probably happy there. This knight is actually doing work defending this pawn, and I can start pushing e5, maybe create some pressure in the center. And if they do nothing, then I can probably just take and permanently make the center closed. And here, yeah, here my opponent played h6, basically forcing me into that line where I can move my bishop, of course. That seems okay. But maybe then, I mean, it seemed okay, but I thought I had to take here at least. Might actually have been a4 first and queen c2. And then h6. So I took, take, and you can take with the bishop, but you probably don't want to, and I played, and they just played pawn takes. And now the center is closed. I have 2 knights versus 2 bishops, which is not great, but I have stuff here. I also have the d-file, which I assumed would be something. So I tried forcing that. So I played rook d2, trying to double up on the d-file. My opponent threatened the pawn, and it's a genuine threat. I can't really allow them to take because I can't trap the bishop in either of these ways because they have b3. So I have to defend. And here, yeah, here they try to reroute the queen a bit. So I believe, and the bishops as well. I believe what they played here was bishop e7 to prevent me from playing rook d6 ever. I still played rook d1. I own the d file now. Wow, something is really stuck in my throat, sorry. It's quite bad. Do I have any? Fortunate. Yeah. I have some nice rooks here at least, and now I can start putting my knights on better squares. So they played queen a5, which was kind of scary because they might play a3 here, but I always have b3, but I'm not really happy with that because of bishop b4. Yeah. Or did they play f4, f6 first? Yeah, let's just play a couple of moves because I don't remember exactly how everything worked, but I believe after, sorry, so f6 first to just defend this pawn properly. Then queen a5, then I rerouted the knight here. Actually, I believe I played h4 first. No, I definitely played this first. At some point the king moved. And then I started to see options of attacking on the king side, but it's kind of difficult. Maybe I should play g4 first. And g4, h4, g5. Get my knight to a good square. Maybe there, maybe there. And on g4, g5 I can go here. On g4, h5 I can take and go there. g4 nothing, I can play h4. And then g5 and then go here eventually. But I played h4, which is bad because of h5. Yeah. So now I also have kind of have created an issue here because f5 might attack my pawn at some point, so I played g3. I believe here my opponent, my opponent played queen c5, which I'm not very certain about. I don't think that's great. Mostly because I get queen c3 here, which puts some pressure in the center and prevents everything. Wow. I should really get something to drink, but after this. Yeah, my opponents really did. So if they ever want to play for a win, they have to play b5. But they didn't want to do that. Because then if I just take, let's trade here, I get knight d5 and my knight suddenly comes alive. And they weren't happy with that. I'm not sure. I think if they actually want to play this, then they have to play b5, but they didn't. Bishop f8. I rerouted this knight. Bishop h6 as a nice attempt to attack this knight and force a double pawn, but I can just defend. This knight on c2 is actually great for multiple reasons. They decided that this bishop wasn't good here, so they went back, and I I had strongly considered the move f4 here, which is quite interesting. It is a piece sacrifice, or at least the way I would have played it, probably. Because if they take, my plan was to take on f6 and threaten rook d7. But I think that's just defended, so maybe I just have to take back and then later attack here. But yeah, I didn't do that. They went back and forth, so I went back here. Right? No, I played king g2. They went back all the way to e7, so they went this. Which meant that I decided to play knight e1 and offer a draw. And my opponent genuinely thought about it for like 10 minutes and decided to play on. But like, if they don't do anything, I don't do anything, it's just a draw. I am definitely worse here, don't get me wrong. The bishops are quite powerful, and or actually they have a lot of potential, but yeah. It's really hard to break through, especially if you don't want to play b5. But they played queen b6. So if I go back a couple of moves, here I realized that I had to go to c2 for multiple reasons. And it's not even to attack this knight, to defend this knight technically. It's also because this allows queen d4, which is very annoying. So guess what I played here? And it's lost. This is really bad for me. This pawn is undefended. If they take here, my pawn structure is crushed, and the bishop starts dominating. The fun part is that I can technically sack this pawn, because if I just move my knight somewhere, let's say here, the queen is trapped. That's quite funny, but yeah. But after knight e1 they can always just take on c3, and then this is also really sad for me. So after this, the best thing I assumed that I could do is this. Just taking, and then it's a pawn sacrifice here. But my knight gets active, and maybe I hoped I could play knight f4, which is actually a good place for this knight, and maybe put some pressure, getting my knight near e6, maybe. But no, not really. Because of bishop. Now the bishops come alive, and attack here, I have to defend. Yeah. I believe now c5, which I did not expect, but seems decent. I can't go to b5 because of bishop c4. Actually, we calculated and it was fine. But I went to c2. You can go here, but and the point is that you fork the rooks, but take. Actually, wasn't the point that you give this check and take here? I believe this was the point. That you don't take there. Oh. Yeah. So you give this check, take here, because the Hmm. Because you can't do this, and this is all terrible for me. Then I just lose the piece. Also this, and like, oh, you can just take. So yeah, went to c2, attacking this bishop. I decided, this was a decent play for me at least. I tried to get some counterplay here by taking the bishop because of getting 2 pieces for the rook here. But you can just take back. And this is not great, but okay. I didn't take the rook though. I don't remember what I did. Oh, I remember, yeah. My opponent said that this was the losing mistake, which I disagree with. But rook a1 isn't great. I thought I could get some kind of counterplay, and on this you can defend, but then the bishop is stuck and the pawns are stuck. But you can go here, and I assumed that this, and if this, I give this check and take this pawn, but you can play b5, and this just barely saves everything. Yeah. And this pawn is also hanging now. I had a couple of options here. I also genuinely consider b3 here in this position. Because b3 bishop takes, I can attempt this, but that doesn't actually work. And on pawn takes I can permanently stop it, basically. But yeah, it doesn't work because you can just take with the bishop. So I have to just defend the pawn. b3 happened. I could, yeah, I went to c1, and then the rook came in. And then the pawn started running. I decided to defend. It's probably decent enough. There's this nice trick that I tried at least, because this is definitely losing, but I have to try stuff. Am I missing a move? No, I'm not. I played king e3 here, attacking the rook. And then I did I looked at this blockade for quite a bit. And you of course have rook d3 immediately, which is instantly winning. But I had to try. You can also just barely take here. Because this is a discovered attack, winning this rook. But in that variation, it's better to take here first, which is what I did. And my opponent played rook d3, and I basically resigned at the spot. Well, I played a couple of more moves, but we don't have to look at those. But the point is that in this line, you can now go here. And this might be okay. With the might is the big word there. But maybe you still have this and that or something. The bishop is hanging. Maybe this is still very losing. And sure, I want to look at this. Yeah, this is definitely losing. But maybe because rook e3 isn't. Okay, it's still, yeah, quite bad. But yeah, yeah, this happened and I moved here, and the game just ended quite quickly because I lose another pawn here, and almost get checkmated on f4. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, this is just game over. Okay. Well, I know kind of where it went wrong already. We looked at this with the engine for a bit, but yeah, I should have played a4 at some point quite quickly, and here as well. Now I'm already a touch worse. That's a funny line. That was possible. And now it's actually good. Whoa. This is still fine. I'm still fine here. It doesn't really like taking, but I thought it was okay. Yeah, okay, and then we play this. This is kind of playable for me, at least. It's really hard for black to find a good plan. Yeah, h4 wasn't the move, g4 is the move, clearly. Clearly, obviously. God. Yeah. Yeah, I looked at b4 a couple of times, but I didn't see the point because I open up the black rook here, which, yeah. Again, knight needs to go back, and now it's just game over. This is just really bad, and that's also apparently not a good move. Apparently, I should just try to hold it. Yeah, and it's. I mean, I do play good moves here. Apparently, yeah, rook a1 isn't good, obviously, because of b5, which I missed. Yeah, taking is decent, maybe. But allowing this is that's just bad. And this is also terrible because of rook d3 and stuff, but I had some hopes here. Because like this, I just take and then I can... Wait, what? Yeah. And then I can permanently blockade these, I'm fairly certain. Or at least try to. Is this a draw? No, right? Because you take the rook and then my king is too far. It's a decent attempt at least. But this is also just terrible. Yeah. I mean, my opponent had a rating of like 2000, a bit higher. I struggled for sure, but I didn't play a bad game, I don't think. But yeah, happens. Maybe next time I'll play a comparable opponent and I smash them again. It's fine. See you there.